注的焦点议题。我们明天不见不散。
再见。
大家好，欢迎来到我们的亚洲大眼睛节目。今天我们带来一则惊人的消息：泰国政府决定对与电信诈骗有关的5个缅甸地点，从今早9时起全面断电、断网及断油。这一切都是因为近期一起中国演员王星的诱骗与绑架事件，引发了泰国对电信诈骗的极大关注与强烈反应。泰国副首相兼国防部长普坦在新闻发布会上指出，这5个地点的电力供应完全依赖于泰国，而这些地区的电信诈骗行为已严重损害了泰国的国家安全。普坦表示，这样的措施不仅是针对特定地点，也是为了保护泰国极为重要的旅游产业，因为中国游客的安全疑虑正在影响到泰国的经济。大家好，欢迎来到我们的亚洲大眼睛节目。今天我们将聚焦于泰国政府刚刚做出的震撼决策。自今早9时起，泰国宣布对与电信诈骗活动有关的5个缅甸地点全面断电、断网及断油。这一举措不仅是对电信诈骗集团的强硬回击，更是对泰国国家安全和旅游业的强烈保护反应。在副首相普坦的新闻发布会上，他明言这5个地点的电力供应完全依赖于泰国，并且这些地区的电信诈骗行为已经对泰国的国家安全造成了严重威胁。特别是近期中国演员王星的遭遇，更激化了泰国对这一问题的关注。这位演员被诱骗至泰国后被绑架至缅甸的电诈园区。事件曝光后，引发了广泛的舆论关注，迫使泰国当局必须采取果敢行动。普坦强措施不仅仅是针对诈骗集团的直接打击，还旨在恢复中国游客对泰国的信心，因为该国旅游业对于经济发展至关重要。然而，这一决策也引发了对当地居民生活影响的担忧。这样的一刀切做法是否会造成无辜者的痛苦？泰国政府如何在安全与人道之间取得平衡？这些都是值得我们深思的问题，请大家继续收看详细内容，我们将深入探讨这一事件的背后意义及可能产生的影响。在一场别开生面的新闻发布会上，泰国副首相兼国防部长普坦宣布了一项引人注目的决定：泰国政府将自5日上午9时起切断对缅甸5个特定地点的电力、互联网和燃油供应。此举不仅是泰国政府在应对电信诈骗问题上的重大举措，也揭示了跨国犯罪对地区安全的深刻影响。根据中新社的报道，这5个目标地点位于泰缅边境的缅甸境内，与电信诈骗集团有直接关联，其中包括声名狼藉的缅甸妙瓦底灰梦村。普坦的声明中指出，泰国内阁早在1996年便通过决议，允许地方电力局向与泰国边境接壤的外国村庄出售电力，而目前这些地区的电力便是源自泰国供应。在泰国首相府，普坦紧急召集国家安全委员会，展开了一场长达2个多小时的会议。会议的焦点便是切断电力供应，以遏制愈发猖獗的电信诈骗问题。诈骗活动对泰国国家安全构成了严重威胁，涉及众多受害者，案子巨大，公众利益受到严重损害。为此，自5日上午9时起，泰国将对缅甸这5个重点地区进行全面断电、断网和断油，并提前通知相关单位，包括医疗机构做好应对准备。此举与泰国正在全国范围内开展的边境封锁行动同步进行，涉及全国51个边境线。作为与会者之一的帕东坦·希纳瓦总理也表示，泰国政府正积极采取措施，以期迅速平息电诈园区引发的负面影响。中国演员王星的被绑事件无疑是泰国政府做出强硬决策的催化剂。这位年轻演员被诱骗至泰国后，遭绑架到缅甸妙瓦底的电诈园区。这一系列事件被曝光后，引发了国际舆论的强烈关注。泰国警方的成功解救行动虽为王星赢得了自由，却无法消除公众对缅甸电诈园区的担忧。泰国一直以来以旅游业闻名于世，占据了国内生产总值的12%，并提供了全国近1/5的就业机会。特别是中国市场，长久以来一直是泰国旅游业的重要支柱。然而，王星事件令泰国旅游业蒙上了一层阴影。受此事件影响，泰国旅游当局估算有数万名中国游客取消了旅游行程，使泰国急需采取行动恢复游客信心。泰国总理帕东坦·希纳瓦在国家安全委员会上强调，此事不仅影响到众多泰国人的安全感， 也对国家形象产生了巨大的负面影响。他在会后告诉记者，如果讨论结果明确，媒体透露，国安会负责人指出，证据显示跨国犯罪集团在缅甸的大其力、妙瓦底和帕亚松茹等地活动，这些区域可能成为断电目标。缅甸国营的缅甸全球星光报在一篇罕见的文章中提到，电诈中心的基本供应并非来自缅甸，而是由海外提供，意有所指的指向泰国。文章中提到，自2023年10月以来，缅甸军政府已遣返超5.5万名外国人，其中绝大多数为中国人，他们被迫在这些电诈园区中工作。联合国的报告揭示了跨国贩运问题的严重性，数以10万计的人被犯罪集团贩卖到东南亚各地，被迫从事诈骗和非法线上活动。这些活动每年创造出数十亿美元的收入，令人震惊。为了恢复中国游客对泰国的信心，泰国总理帕东坦计划于2024年2月5日至8日访问北京，与中国领导人习近平会晤。这次外交之旅意在请求中国协助遏制有关泰国安全的负面舆论，并就电诈园区问题表达泰国的担忧。通过这种高层外交交流，泰国希望不仅能修复因网信事件受损的国家形象，同时也向国际社会展示其打击犯罪的坚定决心。欢迎大家进入6度探索的辩论环节，我们从正反两个角度对本节目进行辩论，请出我们的辩论高手楚天舒、谢琪琪。
泰国切断对缅甸电诈地区的电力、互联网和燃油供应是一个明智之举，因为这些措施直接打击了电信诈骗集团的运营基础。我们都知道，电力和互联网是现代电信诈骗的命脉，切断这些供应可以有效地削弱诈骗集团的活动能力，保护泰国和其他国家的公民免受诈骗侵害。泰国政府这样的果断行动不仅有助于维护国家安全，还能提升国家形象，恢复旅游业的信心。
虽然泰国的目的是打击电信诈骗，但切断如此基本的供应，将对当地居民造成不可估量的负面影响。这些地区不仅有诈骗人员，还有无辜的普通百姓，他们也需要电力、互联网和燃油来维持基本生活。这种一刀切的做法，实际上是在惩罚无辜者。泰国应该寻找更有针对性的方法，而不是通过如此严厉的手段来解决问题。
当然，切断供应会影响到普通居民，但我们不能忽视这样一个事实：这些地区的诈骗活动已经触及到了国际社会的底线。正所谓壮士断腕，刮骨疗毒，有时为了全局利益，我们不得不采取激烈的措施。泰国政府已经意识到这个问题的严重性，也正努力进行更精确的打击。我们不应该忘记，电信诈骗造成的经济损失和社会影响要远远超过短期内的生活不便。
然而，历史上许多激烈的措施往往会带来意想不到的后果。例如，美国在禁酒令时期试图通过禁止酒类来解决社会问题，结果却导致了非法市场的繁荣和犯罪率的上升。泰国切断供应可能会迫使诈骗集团寻找其他非法途径来继续他们的活动，而不是彻底消除他们。我们需要创新的政策和国际合作，而不是仅靠断电这样简单的措施。
你提到的历史教训确实值得注意，但我们不能因为担心可能的负面后果而畏首畏尾。泰国的断电行动正是为了切断诈骗集团的命脉，迫使他们无法继续运营。同时，泰国也在积极寻求与国际社会的合作，例如与中国政府共同打击跨国诈骗活动。只要措施得当，这次行动将为建立一个更安全的国际环境铺平道路。
国际合作当然是关键，但我们必须采取更加人性化的方式。电信诈骗问题是复杂的社会和经济问题，需要通过教育、法律改革和技术手段来解决，而不是简单的断电。泰国可以考虑利用这些断电的预算来加强边境安全和情报收集，或者支持那些受到诈骗困扰的受害者。这不仅能减少诈骗活动，还能提升国家的国际声誉。
我是评委合理，我想对两位精彩的辩论做出评论。在楚天舒与谢琪琪的辩论中，两位选手针对泰国切断对缅甸电诈地区的电力、互联网和燃油供应的措施展开了激烈的讨论。楚天舒主张此举是必要的， 强调切断这些供应可以有效打击电信诈骗集团，保护公民免受损害。然而，谢奇奇则提出了切断供应对当地无辜居民所造成的负面影响，认为这样的一刀切做法并不合理。楚天舒的观点有其道理，确实，电力与互联网是电信诈骗的命脉，断掉这些资源有助于削弱诈骗集团的运作能力。不过，他似乎低估了切断供应对当地普通居民生活的影响。谢奇奇的论点提醒我们，政策不应该以牺牲无辜者为代价。当地居民同样需要这些基本生活资源，这样的措施或许会导致更多的社会问题，甚至可能引发对泰国政府的反感和抵抗。此外，楚天舒提到的壮士断腕理论虽然在某些情况下成立，但实际操作中，这种激烈的措施往往伴随着意想不到的后果。谢奇奇举例指出，禁酒令的失败正是因为未能妥善考量社会需求，导致了非法市场的繁荣。这里提醒我们，解决问题需要的是全面的考量，而不是仅仅依赖某一种极端措施。谢奇奇后续提出的建议也非常重要，强调需要通过教育、法律改革和技术手段来解决电信诈骗问题，这是一个更为长远与根本的策略。他的观点让我们认识到，除了短期的措施，还需要建立一个更加稳定的社会环境，从根本上提高民众的防诈能力。总的来看，这场辩论让我们看到了在面对复杂社会问题时，如何平衡及时措施与长期解决方案的重要性。楚天舒的立场强调了安全的重要性，而谢奇奇则提醒我们，解决问题必须以人为本。未来的政策制定者应该在这两者之间找到恰当的平衡点，以期达到更有效的成果。
谢谢大家收看六度探索，这是一个由科学家、经济学家、媒体人、工程技术人员合作建立的新型媒体。网友与六度来参与合作完成各种内容，这些内容不能作为任何决策或法律的意见。这是个新型的试验性媒体方式，我们希望得到大家的支持，修正错误。网友可以参与讨论，也可以向万能的六博士提出你能想出的任何问题。
大家好，欢迎来到我们的突发事件节目。今天我们要讨论的话题绝对引人注目，美国邮政服务局 USPS 决定暂时停止接受来自中国和香港的进口包裹，这一变动将于2月4日生效，直至另行通知。虽然这一措施不影响来自这些地区的信件和大型信封，但其背后的原因却引起了广泛的猜测。特朗普政府近期重申了对中国商品加征10%关税的立场，并可能与此举动有关。值得注意的是，近一半的包裹都是通过的 Minimize 规定运送的，而这一规定正是特朗普所计划改革的对象。这场贸易战的影响正在逐渐显现，而中国也针对美方的关税措施做出了回应。这一决定将如何影响美国的邮政系统和全球电子商务？不仅影响了成千上万的工作机会，还可能改变我们的购物方式。请大家继续收看详细内容。欢迎收看突发事件，我是您的主持人。今天我们将关注一则近期引起广泛关注的消息，美国邮政服务 USPS 决定暂时停止接收来自中国和香港的包裹。这一举措引发了广泛的猜测和讨论，我们将从多个角度深入分析这一事件的背景、影响及其潜在的政治经济含义。根据路透社的报道，美国邮政服务在其官方网站上宣布，自2月4日起将暂时停止接收来自中国和香港邮政的入境包裹，直到另行通知为止。不过，这一调整并不影响来自这些地区的信件和大型信封的流通。尽管 USPS 并未马上就这一决定是否与美国总统唐纳德·特朗普结束来自中国及其他国家的微量寄送政策有关联发表评论，但此举无疑引发了人们的猜测。特朗普政府近期针对中国实施了一系列经济政策，包括将对中国商品征收额外的10%关税，同时对加拿大和墨西哥商品的25%关税暂时暂停1个月。根据美国国会对华委员会2023年6月的报告，几乎一半的微量寄送包裹来自中国。
因此 USPS 的这一暂停接收包裹的决定很可能受到这些政策变化的直接影响。此外，南华早报的报道称，美国邮政服务在其网站上张贴了这一暂停公告，但未对此做出具体解释。这也让外界猜测，此举是否与中国政府宣布的反制关税有关。就在特朗普政府宣布对中国商品加征10%关税的同一天，中国政府也公布了反制措施。Axios 的报道进一步补充道，特朗普在他的第一任期内曾承诺要彻底改革美国的邮政系统，这一改革可能会削弱其可靠的递送能力，影响数十万个政府工作岗位，并改变电商巨头如 Temu 和 Shein 的运营模式。USPS 的声明中明确指出，信件和大型信封的流通不会受到影响，而白宫和 USPS 的代表则未在第一时间对 Axios 的置评请求做出回应。从不同的角度来看，这一事件可以被视为中美贸易争端的又一体现。首先，美国暂停来自中国和香港的包裹接收，可能是特朗普政府更大贸易政策的一部分，用以施压中国政府在贸易谈判中做出让步。此举不仅影响到两国间的物流流通，还可能对依赖国际邮政服务的中小型企业造成影响。其次，从政治角度来看，特朗普政府此举可能是为了向国内展示其对华强硬立场，以巩固其政治支持基础。在国内经济面临挑战的背景下，政府需要通过对外政策转移国内注意力，并展现其在国际舞台上的影响力。经济方面，这一措施可能会对中美之间的电商活动产生连锁反应。由于中国是全球电子产品和消费品的主要生产国，暂停包裹接收可能会导致美国消费者面临商品供应延迟，甚至是价格上涨的问题。同时，这对中国的跨境电商平台也是一大冲击，可能迫使其寻找其他物流解决方案或市场。除此之外，这一事件也反映了全球供应链的脆弱性，任何政策变化都可能迅速影响到跨国贸易和物流运营。在全球经济日益互联的今天，各国政府的政策调整不仅要考虑国内影响，还需意识到其对国际关系和贸易往来的潜在影响。总的来说，美国邮政服务暂停接收来自中国和香港的包裹，不仅是一次单纯的物流政策调整，更是中美贸易关系复杂博弈的缩影。随着全球经济环境的变动，各国在政策制定过程中需更加谨慎，避免对全球供应链和国际贸易产生不可逆转的消极影响。感谢您收看本期突发事件，我们将持续关注事态的发展，为您带来最新的分析和报道。请继续关注我们的节目，了解更多全球动态。下期见。
Any update on when you would speak to President Xi, sir? Any update on when you would speak to President Xi?
No, we'll speak to him at the appropriate time. I'm in no rush. At the appropriate time.
大家好，欢迎关注华尔街电视频道。本视频录制时间为美东时间2月4日。这一期热点深度，重点关注美中贸易战的最新动态。川普一天前声称最快在24小时内和中国最高领导人习近平通话，而一天后现在，川普最新的表态则是他不急于同习近平对话。美东时间2月4日下午，川普在白宫总统表示，他对与中国国家主席习近平的通话不着急，尽管双方都在加征关税，并且市场对即将进行的通话充满期待。中国对美国的10%关税迅速做出了反击，宣布对多种美国商品加征关税，并启动了对谷歌的反垄断调查。这些举措不仅是一种报复，更是对美国的警告。特朗普的言论中透露出他的强硬立场，称这些关税只是开场炮火，而他也表达了对达成协议的期望，甚至暗示可能需要几个月的谈判。中国在这场贸易斗争中的反应则显得更加谨慎。习近平的策略是避免全面的关税战，因为这对中国的利益并不大。随着市场的不稳定，两国领导人是否能快速达成协议成为了焦点。在这场国际经济博弈中，双方都在测试彼此的底线，并试图在国内观众面前展现力量。这场贸易战的影响不仅限于两国之间，还可能涉及全球经济的未来走向。请大家继续收看详细内容。本视频重点关注美中贸易战的最新动态和背后的博弈。这期节目我们将聚焦特朗普总统近期在美中贸易战中的表态，以及两国关系的复杂背景。我们的信息来源包括国际知名媒体法国新闻社、华尔街日报和彭博社的报道。 首先，法国新闻社称，美国总统唐纳德·特朗普在白宫对记者表示，他并不急于与中国国家主席习近平通话。这一声明是在美国和中国互相加征新的关税之后发出的，而这两国经济分别是全球最大的经济体。根据《华尔街日报》的早前报道，特朗普和习近平原定于周二通话，但由于两国相继加征关税，这一计划推迟。中国对美国的关税措施迅速做出回应，包括对某些美国商品加征关税，对谷歌发起反垄断调查，并限制中国关键矿物的出口。这一系列举措加剧了全球最大两个经济体之间的新一轮贸易战。彭博社的分析指出，习近平在应对特朗普关税时比以往更加谨慎。这次，中国对约80种产品加征关税，总额仅为特朗普目标金额的一小部分，反映出中国在这一轮贸易争端中采取了更加克制的策略。这一策略在于展示中国如果需要可以对美国公司造成更大影响的能力，而不是在关税上全面对抗。为什么中国采取这种策略？根据 Macquarie Group Ltd 的中国经济学部门负责人 Larry Hu 的分析，中国在这场贸易战中处于不利地位，因为中美之间存在巨大贸易逆差。如果贸易战全面爆发，中国可能会遭受更大的损失。因此，中国更可能通过国内刺激政策来应对关税压力，而不是直接进行大规模反制。这种谨慎态度的直接效果是避免了市场的剧烈波动。尽管上周特朗普的关税政策造成了市场的紧张情绪，但香港上市的恒生中国企业指数周二反弹上涨了 3.5%， 而离岸人民币也在经历了早期跌势后趋于稳定。现在的问题是，两国领导人能否在中国的关税生效之前迅速达成协议？特朗普总统表达了寻求与中国达成协议的意愿，并暗示可能会重新审视他在2020年签署的第一阶段贸易协议。此外，特朗普还在推动一项涉及 TikTok 的交易，希望将这款应用的所有权分割给一家美国公司，而这背后有75天的紧迫期限。特朗普在他的社交平台上表示，对 TikTok 的交易非常感兴趣，并称达成交易对中国来说将是美妙的。而此前他也曾表示，微软公司有意收购字节跳动在美国的业务，而中国官员则倾向于销售给特朗普的顾问埃隆·马斯克。对于中国来说，谈判的筹码相对有限。根据中国海关总署的数据，中国对美国的出口额是其进口额的3倍多，这意味着中国可以实施关税的商品有限。这也导致了中国的某些反制措施具有象征意义，比如对谷歌的监管，即便谷歌的搜索服务自2010年以来就未在中国可用。一些观察人士认为，未来任何可能的协议都将取决于中国可能做出的让步，包括增加购买美国的石油和天然气，保持人民币稳定，以及履行第一阶段协议中的承诺。然而，这些措施的组合可能是修复两国关系的关键。此外，特朗普可能会在谈判中提到中国在巴拿马运河的影响力，因为一个香港公司在运河附近拥有2个港口。如果巴拿马不减少中国的控制权，美国已威胁要收回运河控制权。目前，北京在展现实力的同时，也在避免加剧冲突。上海华东师范大学国际关系教授约瑟夫·格雷戈里·马洪尼指出，我们可能正在看到2个巨人互相试探，并在对国内观众表演之前试图握手言和。综上所述，美中贸易战的不确定性依然存在，但双方都在寻找一种平衡，既能维护自身利益，又不至于让局势失控。未来的发展将对全球经济和政治局势产生深远影响。在这个过程中，我们需要继续关注双方的外交策略和经济政策的走向。视频后半部分内容，重点关注中国国家市监总局对谷歌反垄断调查。其实现在在中国，谷歌还有不少业务。在全球贸易舞台上，随着中美之间的紧张局势再次升温，中国政府宣布了一系列针对美国的反制措施，让这场已经持续多年的贸易战再度升级。根据南华早报报道，作为回应华盛顿对中国产品加征 10% 新关税的举措，中国计划从2月10日起对部分美国商品施加 10% 到 15% 的惩罚性关税。这项措施的背景是美国基于对芬太尼管控问题的指责而采取的行动。中国财政部指出，将对来自美国的煤炭和天然气进口征收 15% 的关税，并对石油、农业设备、高排放车辆和皮卡车征收 10% 的关税。中国政府强调， 美国单方面加征关税的行为严重违反了世界贸易组织的规则，这不仅无助于解决自身问题，还破坏了中美之间的正常经济和贸易合作。根据伦敦的研究公司 Capital Economics 的估计，北京的关税措施将适用于约200亿美元的美国进口商品，而华盛顿的关税措施则针对价值4500亿美元的中国商品。除了关税，中国还宣布了一系列出口控制措施，并对美国科技巨头谷歌展开反垄断调查。根据国家市场监管总局的公告，这项调查是基于谷歌涉嫌违反中国反垄断法的嫌疑而展开的。然而，公告并未指出谷歌涉嫌违反的具体内容。大多数谷歌服务，如搜索、Gmail 和谷歌地图，在中国大陆无法使用，但该公司在广告方面仍在中国维持了一些业务。针对谷歌的调查可能与其在中国的业务有关，尤其是在手机操作系统及相关应用服务方面的市场行为。上海大邦律师事务所的游云婷分析指出，谷歌在广告推广服务上还有很多竞争对手，但在手机操作系统方面的市场垄断地位可能是这次调查的重点之一。这次调查或与谷歌在美国对华为实施出口管制禁令后，拒绝对其授权的行为有关。同时，中国政府还将美国服装公司 PVH 和生物技术公司 Illumina 列入不可靠实体名单，原因是这些公司中断了与中国企业的正常交易，并对其采取了歧视性措施，严重损害了其合法权益。这些举措旨在维护国家主权、安全和发展利益。在中美贸易战的背景下，中国的这些克制的措施可能暗藏了谈判的邀请。南华早报引述香港城市大学法学院国际经济法教授朱彦切斯的观点表示，中国的这些措施虽然重要，但也是经过精心设计的，目的是展示中国的反制能力，同时保持战略上的灵活性。Targeting 美国的关键出口商品，如液化天然气、原油和某些汽车，中国希望有选择地施加经济压力。清华大学国际安全与战略研究中心主任达维指出，中国的措施克制而有节制，因为美国煤炭和液化天然气仅占中国总进口的 1% 和 3%。相比之下，分析人士认为，美国对加拿大和墨西哥的关税缓解措施显示出对北京的强硬立场。内部分析指出，特朗普政府可能会对中国采取更强势的回应，与对待加拿大和墨西哥的方式不同。北京长期以来呼吁通过对话解决贸易争端，并警告关税战争中没有赢家。然而，由于中美两国之间的紧张双边关系、激烈的科技和军事竞争，以及特朗普的不可预测性、不确定性依然存在。特朗普在竞选期间曾威胁对中国产品征收高达 60% 的关税，这使得 10% 的关税可能仅仅是个开始。随着全球贸易格局的变化，中国加大了对美国的反制措施，包括加强对战略矿物和无人机的出口控制，同时多样化进口来源，以减少对美国进口和技术的依赖。在这场复杂的国际博弈中，中国意图通过一系列克制而有效的措施，表现出其在面对美国挑战时的韧性与灵活性。在反垄断调查方面，财新报道指出，谷歌在中国的业务主要涉及为中国企业出海提供关键字推广服务及广告相关的服务。该公司在手机操作系统方面的市场行为也可能是调查的重点，尤其是在安卓系统及其相关服务框架的市场地位上。清华大学国家战略研究院特约研究员刘旭指出，谷歌可能在某些方面违反了其市场优势下的非歧视承诺。刘旭指出，13年前，商务部认定谷歌安卓在市场上具有支配地位，但时过境迁，随着华为鸿蒙操作系统的兴起和消费者的逐渐接受，中国市场的动态已经发生了变化。市场调查机构 Counterpoint 的数据显示，安卓系统仍占据中国市场的 69%， 而华为的鸿蒙操作系统在2024年第一季度的市场占有率首次超过苹果的 iOS。在欧美国家，谷歌已多次面临调查和诉讼，涉及安卓系统、应用内支付、AI 合作和广告等业务，并因此被欧盟累计罚款超过80亿欧元。刘旭指出，中国的调查不排除是基于现行反垄断法第2条的域外适用规定，针对谷歌在广告和搜索引擎业务中可能存在的市场支配地位行为进行检查，以保护中国市场的公平竞争环境。 透过这一系列的措施，中国不仅展示了在面对全球贸易和科技竞争中的坚定立场，也表达了通过对话和合作解决问题的意愿。这种克制式的反应，无疑是中国在国际舞台上战略性应对的一部分，为未来可能的谈判留出了空间。在这场复杂而多变的国际贸易博弈中，中国面临的挑战与机遇并存，如何在全球化进程中确保国家利益，将是未来一段时间内的重要课题。
Thank you very much. We had a busy day. We're dealing with lots of different people and lots of different things. We had some terrific people in today and trying to solve some of the problems that are going on in the country and outside of the country. We're doing very well with respect to other countries really behaving on taking the criminals that they sent into our country, and we're getting them out. These are some of the worst people on earth, and they're getting out and they're being accepted back in their countries, as you've heard, without exception. So a lot of people thought that was not going to happen, but it's happening very full force. Now we're getting some very, very dangerous people out of our country, which is very important. Will, perhaps we'll go through the first one, please.
Yes, sir. So earlier today, before the press came in, you signed a commission appointing Chris Wright to be your next Secretary of Energy. We have another commission prepared for your signature, sir. This is Doug Collins to be Secretary of the VA, Doug Collins of Georgia.
Two very good men. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next up, in light of numerous actions taken by a number of bodies of the United Nations which exhibit a deep anti-American bias, we have an executive order prepared for your attention that would withdraw the United States from the UN Human Rights Council, would withdraw the United States from the UNRWA, which is a refugee organization, and would also review American involvement in UNESCO, which has also exhibited anti-American bias. More generally, the executive order calls for a review of American involvement and funding in the UN in light of the wild disparities in levels of funding among different countries that, as you've expressed previously, is deeply unfair to the United States.
So I've always felt that the UN has tremendous potential. It's not living up to that potential right now. It really isn't, hasn't for a long time. It has, there are great hopes for it, but it's not being well run, to be honest, and they're not doing the job. A lot of these conflicts that we're working on should be settled, or at least we should have some help in settling them. We never seem to get help. That should be the primary purpose of the UN, the United Nations, and again, it's got great potential, and based on the potential, we'll continue to go along with it, but they got to get their act together.
What would they need to do to get their act together?
Well, they got to be fair to countries that deserve fairness. They have some countries, as you know, that are outliers, that are very bad, and they're being almost preferred as countries to those that do their job and are doing a good job, and they have to really, they're going to end up losing a lot of countries. They're going to end up losing their credibility like other organizations, and then they're going to be nothing. The potential of the United Nations, and not everybody agrees with me on this, the potential of the United Nations is fantastic if properly run. So we'll see what happens.
How much money are you going to take away from that?
Well, we're taking away a little bit, but we're not looking to take away money. This is so important that we're really, as you know, the United Nations is largely funded by us. But, and it shouldn't be, it should be funded by everybody, but we're disproportionate, as we always seem to be. But it's something that if it ever lived up to the potential, in 10 minutes it would make up the difference. That's the kind of power it could have. Right now it doesn't have that power.
Next, sir, this is a national security presidential memorandum that seeks to impose maximum pressure on the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Many of these provisions are similar to actions that your administration took during your first administration. The basic idea here is to have every department and agency, or many departments and agencies in your government attempt to sanction and control Iranian activities, particularly relating to the Iranian nuclear program and the Iranian export of terrorism through support of various proxy groups abroad. And the intent here is to give you all of the possible tools to, I'd say, engage with the Iranian government to ensure that going forward they are less of a malign actor on the world stage.
So this is one that I'm torn about. Everybody wants me to sign it. I'll do that. It's very tough on Iran. It's what we had before. We would have never had the problem. You would have never had October 7th. We would have never had the problem had the election gone the different way, which it should have. But this one, I think, more than made up for it. I think we're doing things, and it shows that more than made up for it, much more historic. The Iran situation, hopefully, I'm going to sign it, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it very much. We will see whether or not we can arrange or work out a deal with Iran, and everybody can live together, and maybe that's possible, and maybe it's not possible. So I'm signing this, and I'm unhappy to do it, but I really have not so much choice because we have to be strong and firm, and I hope that it's not going to have to be used in any great measure at all. It'd be great if we could have a Middle East and maybe a world at total peace. Right now you don't have that. When I left, you had peace all over the world, and now you have the world is blowing up. As you know, Bibi is coming in to see me later. Others are coming in to see me. We'll see what we can do. But I'm signing this, and hopefully it will be a document which won't be very important, will hardly have to be used.
So what kind of deal would you be prepared to
Well,
make?
we're going to see. I mean, we're going to see. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. With me, it's very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Mr. President, are you going to engage in conversations with your counterpart in Iran?
I would.
Do you want to block the sale of Iranian oil to other nations?
Well, we have the right to do that, and that's what I did before, and they had no money. They wouldn't have had the money for Hamas or Hezbollah or anybody else. It could have been solved, this thing. It just, if things went the way they should have, this would have been over long ago, but it's not over.
How close do you think Iran is to developing a nuclear weapon?
I think they're close. I think they're close. They're too close. But again, you could go back 4 years, I would have said they would have had it during this intervening period. But they're pretty close, Peter.
And why say that you're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do. Not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That'd be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why. Lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran. So I'm signing this, and it's a very powerful document, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it.
Mr. President, if the Prime Minister today were to ask your help in striking at Iran's nuclear facilities to prevent the kind of progress towards a nuclear weapon, would you give him the green light? Would it, either to do it himself or for the U.S. to participate with him?
I don't know that that's what he's going to be asking for. I have no idea that it is. You're telling me. We're going to have a pretty long meeting. We're going to be discussing a lot of things, not only that, but a lot of things. And I'll let you know if the time comes to let you know. But right now, that's not something that I can discuss.
Mr. President, when you said if they do it, they get obliterated. Just to be clear, you're talking about if Iran made an attempt on your life.
Yeah, that would be called total obliteration. And I can't imagine they do that. It should have been stated by Biden, but he didn't state it because he had no clue, as you know, as everybody knows.
What is your vision actually for relationship?
Do you have
with
anything
Iran?
else?
No, that's all we have.
My vision for what?
Relationship with Iran, and would you?
I'd love to have a good relationship with everybody. They can't have a nuclear weapon. That was the only thing that was very important. They can't have a nuclear weapon. Beyond that, it would be very tough if they insist on doing that. They have some of their leadership, I can tell you right now, and maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but there are many people at the top ranks of Iran that do not want to have a nuclear weapon just for that very reason.
Mr. President, what's your reaction to China's retaliatory tariffs?
That's fine. It's fine. We're going to do very well against China and against everybody else. Right now, they've taken advantage of the Biden administration like I've never seen. I've never seen. The deficit with China is about $1 trillion. Think of it, $1 trillion. They're using our money to build their military. And Biden let that happen. We're taking a lot of fires here. We came back. This is like a different place. The good news is we're doing very well. We're doing well with countries that nobody expected would do well with. We are respected again as a nation. Maybe at a level that people haven't seen for many, many decades. But when I left, we didn't have any wars. I defeated ISIS, 100% of the ISIS caliphate, and now the world seems to be ready to blow up, but we'll see if we can stop it.
Mr. President,
Say it.
Have you reached out to the Iranians about any kind of deal to start those?
I would reach out. I mean, I have nothing. I say I'm one that doesn't care whether I reach out or they reach out. A lot of people say, let them reach out, sir. To me, it doesn't matter. It's just talk. But I want to see everybody do well. I want to see great countries, and I want to see peace in the Middle East and elsewhere. We're also working very hard with respect to Russia, Ukraine. That's a bloodbath. It's a total bloodbath. What's going on there is incredible. What's going on with the soldiers, young soldiers being killed by the thousands. I mean, literally by the thousands. And we want to see if we can get that stopped. And I think we've had some very good talks.
Any update on when you would speak to President Xi, sir? Any update on when you would speak to President Xi?
No, we'll speak to him at the appropriate time. I'm in no rush. At the appropriate time.
Do you think that conversation can lend itself to the type of freeze that it meant for the tariffs for Canada and
Well,
Mexico?
we'll see what happens. I mean, well, there's a short-term freeze with Mexico, and, as you know, and with Canada. But they've agreed to be very, very strong on the border, stronger than they ever were by far, by a factor of about 30. And in addition to that, as you can see, we've been strong because we've had numbers like you've never seen before. I mean, the border is now closed, really closed. And with that being said, we're letting good people come through, and we want good people to come into our country. But the border is closed.
In your talks with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, do you intend to press him about how many deaths there have been amongst Palestinians? Are you concerned about that death?
I talk about that too. Both sides mean a lot. I talk about that. I talk about the other side. I talk about everything.
What's your main message to him today during your meeting?
Well, I'm here to listen. He's here to see me, and I'm here to listen. So there's not much of a message. At the right time, I'll give him my message.
President, will you continue to press for this idea that Jordan and Egypt take Palestinians from Gaza?
Yeah, I would like to see Jordan. I'd like to see Egypt take some look. The Gaza thing has not worked. It's never worked. And I feel very differently about Gaza than a lot of people. I think they should get a good, fresh, beautiful piece of land, and we get some people to put up the money to build it and make it nice and make it habitable and enjoyable and make it a home.
They don't want to leave, though. Palestinians say they don't want to leave.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site. It's a pure demolition site. If we could find the right piece of land or numerous pieces of land and build them some really nice places with plenty of money in the area, that's for sure, I think that would be a lot better than going back to Gaza, which has had just decades and decades of death.
Where would those pieces of land be?
Well, they could be in Jordan, and they could be in Egypt, and they could be in other places. You could have more than two, more than one, but you could have more than two, and you'd have people living in a place that could be very beautiful and safe and nice. Gaza's been a disaster for decades.
Would the U.S. pay for that?
I don't think the UN would pay, but I think there's plenty of people that would in the area. They have a lot of money. They certainly have a lot of money. Some of the countries over there that'd like to see it. I know that Saudi Arabia wants to see peace. I can see that. And many of the countries there, as far as I'm concerned, they all want peace. I think, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think Iran would like to see peace too. They've had enough. Don't you think they've had enough?
But the leaders of Egypt and Jordan have said bluntly they have no interest in doing this.
Well, they may have said that, but a lot of people said things to me. They said they wouldn't take anybody back in Venezuela, and right now they're flying them right back into Venezuela. And a lot of people, and they're doing the right thing in Venezuela. The Panama Canal is an active discussion right now, and they said things about that. And virtually everything that's been said has been incorrectly stated based on the result.
Wouldn't that amount to forcibly displacing those people from Gaza?
I don't think so. I think if they had the opportunity, they'd love it. If they had an alternative to Gaza, they have no alternative right now. I mean, they're there because they have no alternative. What do they have? It is a big pile of rubble right now. I mean, have you seen the pictures of it? Have you been there? It's terrible to live. Who can live like that? And very dangerous. There's shooting all over the place. There's bombing all over the place on both sides. Now, I would think if they had an option of moving to an area, either in a large group or various smaller groups, and take care of the close to 2 million people, I would think that they would be thrilled to do it. They have no, when you say about the Gaza Strip, they don't have an option.
To be clear, you say they'd be thrilled.
It's very dangerous.
They'd be thrilled to leave Gaza.
Oh, I think they'd love to leave Gaza if they had an option. Right now, they don't have an option. What are they going to do? They have to go back to Gaza. But what is Gaza? There's practically not a building standing. And they're very dangerous. Those buildings are shifting and they're falling down all over the place. And there's gunfire all over. It's going to be that way for a while.
Mr. President, wouldn't it have made more sense to evacuate people while the war was ongoing rather than now when there's a ceasefire?
Which is what you're talking about?
When it was more dangerous when there were strikes overhead than now.
Well, the strikes could start tomorrow. There's not a lot left to strike. Exactly. It's a demolition site. The whole place is demolished. It's unsafe. It's unsanitary. It's not a place where people want to live.
Mr. President,
nobody's got. They have no alternative but to go back. If we gave them an alternative of living in a beautiful open place with some, nice quarters there, nice housing of sorts, and we have the money in the Middle East to build that.
Do you support Israelis actually moving back and creating stuff?
Not necessarily. No, I just support cleaning it up and doing something with it. But it's failed for many decades. And somebody will be sitting here in 10 years or 20 years from now, and they'll be going through the same stuff, the wars. And they've had civilizations on Gaza, many civilizations on Gaza, and they're buried in the sand.
Secretary
it doesn't seem to work.
Secretary.
Thank you, sir. On Elon Musk, how often are you talking to him? And have there been ideas that he's brought to you that you said, oh, no, wait a minute, this is going a little too far?
Oh, many ideas, but look, he's done a great job. Look at all the fraud that he's found in this U.S. AID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you-know-what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money. With the money, I'd like to see what the kickbacks are. How much money has been kicked back? Who would spend that kind of money to some of the things that you read about and I read about and I see every night on the news and every morning when I read the papers? Who would spend money for that? I would say this, the people that got all that money, are they kicking it back to the people that gave it from government? No, that's, to me, very, very corrupt. The real question is how much of a kickback has there been? And one of the things I want to investigate rapidly, because I've never seen anything to this extent, the train that's being built between Los Angeles and San Francisco is the worst managed project I think I've ever seen, and I've seen some of the worst. Billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars over budget. In fact, I read where you could take every single person that was going to go on the train and get the finest limousine service in the world and take them back and forth with limousines, and you'd have hundreds of billions of dollars left over. It is the worst thing, and we're going to start an investigation in that because it's not possible. I built for a living, and I built on time, on budget. It's impossible that something could cost that much. And now it's not even going to San Francisco, and it's not going to Los Angeles. They made it much shorter. So now it's at little places way away from San Francisco and way away from Los Angeles. No, we're going to start a big investigation on that because I've never seen anything like it. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. The worst overruns that there have ever been in the history of our country. And it wasn't even necessary. I would have said, you don't buy it. You take an airplane. It costs you $2. It costs you nothing. You take an airplane. But this got started. And if you have to, you drive. You can drive.
Are there other agencies?
They have hundreds of billions of dollars of cost overruns. And it's not even the same project. It's much shorter. It's way outside of San Francisco and way outside of Los Angeles. So we're going to be looking into that.
Is that DOGE who's going to investigate the train?
No, I'm doing that myself. No,
some of these DOGE engineers that Elon Musk has helping him are as young as 19 years old.
That's good. They're very smart, though, Peter. They're like you. They're very smart people.
Thank you. Have you met any of these guys?
No, I haven't seen them. They work actually out of the White House. They're smart people. Unlike what they do in the control towers, where we need smart people, we should use some of them in the control towers where we were putting people that were actually intellectually deficient. That was one of the qualifications, is you could be intellectually deficient. No, we need smart people. Some are young and some are not young. Some are not young at all, but they found great things. Look at the list of things. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I'll read off a list of 15 or 20 things that they found inside of the USAID. It has to be corrupt. Nobody could approve that. They could only approve that if they were getting kickbacks. And you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars.
And it sounds like you're going to wind down USAID.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, I think so. Yeah.
So when that happens, which part of the government?
Well, I could see Marco Rubio being in charge, State Department, because they're giving money to. I mean, some of the money is well spent, I guess, but much of it is really fraudulent.
And on the Education Department, why nominate Linda McMahon to be the Education Department Secretary if you're going to get rid of the Education?
Because I told Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job. I want her to put herself out of a job. Education Department. So we're ranked number 40 out of 40 schools, right? We're ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, and we're ranked at the bottom of the list. We're ranked very badly. And what I want to do is let the states run schools. I believe strongly in school choice, but in addition to that, I want the states to run schools, and I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
Do you think that's something you can do with an executive order? Or
I'd like to be able to do it. Yeah, I would like to be able to. Look, if I could give the schools back to Iowa and Idaho and Indiana and all these places that run properly, there's many of them. I think so. If you look at the list, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, believe it or not, China's doing very well on that list, a list of well-educated, where they run their school system well. You have a lot of countries, not surprising names. I think that if you moved our schools into some of these states that are really well-run states, they would be as good as Denmark and Norway and Sweden and some of the other states. And then you'd have the laggards, and you know who they are. I don't have to go to it, but you'd have the laggards, the same laggards that are laggards with everything else, including crime. But even them, you'll break it into systems. As an example, if you went to New York, you go to Westchester County, you go to Dutchess County, you go to Suffolk and Long Island and Nassau and Long Island. You have maybe 6 or 7 locations. And you have New York City, which would include the 5 boroughs. And I think even that would run much better than it does right now. Same thing with Los Angeles or California. You'd have Riverside, you'd break it up into 6 or 7, but most of them would be states, and you'd have one, like in Iowa, you give it to the state of Iowa, you give it to the state of Indiana, these are really well-run states. They don't have debt. They don't have problems. They don't have any crimes, relatively speaking, to speak of. And you would have education that would be the equivalent of Norway and Denmark and various other places that are at the top of the list. So we're at the bottom of the list, and we're the most expensive. We're at the top of the list when it comes to cost per pupil. We spend more money per pupil than any other nation in the world, and yet we're rated number 40. The last ratings came out, you saw them. So they talk about 40 countries, we're rated number 40. And I say that if we did this, we would go 20, 30 notches up. We could do great. And we would have some of the best districts in the world.
But are you looking to do that with an executive order, sir, or do you need to work with Congress?
Well, there are some people that say I could. I think I'd work with Congress. I think we'd have to work with the teachers union, because the teachers union is the only one that's opposed to it. Nobody else would want to hold them back. Look, we have to tell the teachers union, we're rated last in the world in education of the top 40. We're rated last. We were 38. Now we're 40. We went to 39. We went to 40. We're 37. But we're at 40 now. The thing just came out. That's under Biden. Remember that.
Secretary Rubio announced a deal this week that would allow potentially American citizens who are criminals to be put in a different country. Is that something you're looking to do?
No, I didn't know that he announced that yet, but if he did, it's fine, yeah. We have hardened criminals, horrible people. You see them pushing people into subways. The train is coming. Last week, guy walking around, just sees somebody waiting for the train. Train's coming 40 miles an hour, and he gets pushed into the subway. And that happens all the time. These are sick people. If we could get them out of our country, we have other countries that would take them. It's no different than a prison system, except it would be a lot less expensive, and it would be a great deterrent. Send them to other countries. If we could go a step further, in other words, we're talking about getting the criminals out of our country that come in through other countries illegally, right? The illegal migrants, as I call them. Well, we have people that are just as bad as them in our country. If we could get them out, I'd be very happy to get them out.
Salvador said that he wanted you to pay a fee for that. Would you pay that?
Well, it's a very small fee compared to what we pay to private prisons.
But under what authority?
And a very, very small fee. I don't know. We'll have to find that out legally. I'm just saying, if we had the legal right to do it, I would do it in a heartbeat. I don't know if we do or not. We're looking at that right now. But we could make deals where we'd get these animals out of our country. And if you take the shooters, the people that hit old ladies in the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that walk down the street, the people that you see it, the people that take out a gun and shoot you for no reason at all. If we could get these animals out of our country and put them in a different country under the supervision of somebody that made a relatively small fee to maintain these people, because you know what? These are criminals. You call them hardened criminals. They've been in jail 40 times. There's one 42 times. And every time the person gets out, it's a he. Every time he gets out, he commits another crime within 24 hours. And it's a heinous crime. It's a rough crime. We don't want these people in our country either. We don't want them in our country. If we had the option to get them out and let them be based in some other country at a fraction of the cost, and frankly, they could keep them, because these people are never going to be any good. That person that has been arrested 42 times or 22 times or 17 times and is all in for manslaughter and everything else, and only gets out because of a very weak judicial system that only goes after people like Trump. They don't go after the criminals. They don't go after people like this. And they laugh at our law. If that took place, you would have a lot less crime automatically.
So there's Guantanamo Bay, on Guantanamo Bay, is there enough space there to accommodate?
There's a lot of space to accommodate a lot of people, yeah, so we're going to use it.
Can you talk a little bit
We have
about
it. It's
why?
already up. We have it for nothing. But we can do less expensive and even more secure. We've had other countries come to us saying, we would love to do that. We would love to take your criminals and we'll maintain that. We'll be their jail. And I'm only talking for the most severe cases. Like, I watched that guy on tape pushing the man into the subway last week. That man that did that is a real bad guy. Many, many arrests. And you think you're going to convince him someday to be good and a wonderful citizen for our country? It's never going to happen. I want to get those people out. I'd love to get them out along with the illegal migrants. The migrants are rough, but we have some bad ones too. I'd like to get them out. It would be all subject to the laws of our land, and we're looking at that to see if we can do it.
What other countries have offered to take American citizens?
Say it?
What other countries have offered to take these Americans?
Numerous, many. And Marco brought it up today. I'm glad he did, because a lot of people are thinking it. When I watch some of the crimes being committed in New York City and Chicago, look at Chicago, the volume of crime that they have, and the viciousness of the crime. These people are horrible people. And if somebody thinks they're going to be wonderful citizens someday, they're wrong. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're bad. These are hard, tough criminals. In many cases, they're crazy. They're absolutely crazy. But they're very dangerous. If I could get them out of the country and be in some other country where they're glad to have them because they make a small fee compared to what we'd pay to a private prison, or to, put them in one of our prisons that costs even more money, I think it would be great. I'd love to get them the hell out of our country. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
I don't want to say, but there's a certain quarterback that seems to be a pretty good winner.
And just last one, because you mentioned it many times. What do you think about Joe Biden signing on with the talent agency?
You got to be kidding. He signed on with a talent agency?
Yes, he's got some entertainment agents now.
I think he's got bigger problems than that. I really do. I think he's got much bigger problems than that, but I wish him well. We inherited a mess. This place is a mess, but it's quickly being solved, the problem. We're going to make America great again. Thank you.